city clerk here for 8 years. So
Get out of here.
Yeah. I worked for congressman, worked for senator.
Nice.
Been doing elections all my life. These guys go door to door and they take people's ballots. They pull them and they give them their ballots over. Voter fraud happens in small ethnic communities where someone is more assimilated. They can run the show. They can intimidate and say, like, if you don't vote, vote for me, your cousin has nowhere to live next year when he comes in. I'll shut it down.
Closed societies, basically.
Yep.
But how do they do it? Like,
easy. They go around the neighborhood with the AV applications, and they have people sign the application. Then they put candidates to drop them all off at City Hall. Then they know when they go out, they go back to the person's house and say, sign the envelope, submit a ballot. They would harvest it. And they did.
And so you think that's what happened here?
Oh, it is what happened here. That's what happened. It happened with the Ukrainians. It happened with the Polacks. It happened with the Bosnians. It's ethnic communities. Whoever gets here can run the show on me.
Don't worry, guys. Vote for us, not a thing. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Rescue Michigan Sunday live stream. We got some special guests tonight. We have Todd Gillman and Tim Ross, both from the Michigan Republican Party. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tim, are you the budget chair? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep, I'm the chair and Todd is the secretary.
Okay, so you guys have both. So you guys are both very active in the state party now. It's been a while since we've done a Kristina Karamo stream, and that's, I guess, because she's not in the picture anymore. But still, we are finding that a lot of trouble has been caused throughout the party, throughout her tenure, and boy, it's. We've got some explosive stuff to talk about tonight because there is a post on Facebook, and you guys, I think this was originally quoting from Todd, but it was here. I'll post this on the screen so people can see what the post says. Here we go. Let's see here. This was the post from friend of the show, Randy Guppy, posted this, and he says he's quoting you, Todd, and this is what it says. Insights and information from the State Budget Committee. When the Kristina Karamo administration took over, they transferred money from Comerica Bank to West Michigan Credit Union. In that transfer, $130,000 came up missing. We are still trying to determine where it went. Karamo spent $100,000 in legal fees after we removed her from office on January 6th. After being told repeatedly the Mackinac Conference was paid off by Kristina Karamo, the new administration actually had to pay $90,000 to pay it off. We are currently facing $50,000 in FEC fines, with more on the way because of the Karamo administration's lack of accountability. Treasurer Jennifer Standerfer was set up as the fall guy and lied to by the administration. The administration left a mailbag full of unopened mail that contained $15,000 in small donations that had to be returned with an apology letter. And if Karamo had not been removed by the Trump team and the RNC, they were going to use the Illinois Republican Party to run our state party duties through the election. The party is now, however, running effective with considerable money coming in, bills getting paid in Trump field offices, getting set up across the state. So, wow. Any one of those things is a conversation topic. So, I guess let's start with this business of this $130,000 missing. And we got one more guest coming in tonight, Scott McMahan from Figure of Truth Media. How's it going, Scott?
Good. I'm so sorry I'm late.
Yeah, that's fine. We just read through the post by Todd, which I guess lays out some of the things. So Todd, why don't you give us the start here? Like, this is all things that you guys just discovered, or what's the story here?
Well, the administration has been doing an audit on the finances for several months now. And because they had to get the FEC filings right, and they had to go back and just like go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, basically refile everything. And in that, they money's come up missing. Mistakes were found. They're dealing with the FEC on that. They've brought on a legal team to deal with the FEC on that. So there's just more money that resources we have to waste cleaning up domestic. Chair Karamo left behind.
Yeah.
The mailbag stuff, I mean, that was news to us. That was the most, that was sad because that's all she wanted to do was smaller dollar donations. She bragged that's what she wanted to run the party on. And she was actually doing it for a minute and it just didn't go open the mail. You know, how hard is it to just go and open the mail?
Yeah. Real quick, I see you guys all saying hello, checking in from Highland Park. Hey, Mark. from Jackson, I think, Russ Jennings, from Battle Creek, Esther, from Kalahari Water Park, Mitch DePerno, Susan from Brighton, Patty P from Plymouth. Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Yeah, actually, to me, that is one of the biggest things was that $15,000 in small contributions. The fact that, because of all the things that distinguish between incompetence and malevolence, there's something huge about that the money was just left on the table. That the people that she claimed she was trying to raise money from the most were the ones whose donation she just completely ignored. It's unreal.
I got another part of that, Adam, is that she claimed that she could fund the party, with all these grassroots donors. And as we were looking, so we had a meeting at the state party office Tuesday, and that's where a lot of this came from. And as we were even looking at the donations that are coming in now, and there's some substantial, and you can see them on the last FEC filing. And we've had a lot of donations from individuals. Several of them, maxing out their donations. And even at that level, with all of these donors maxing out their donation amounts, we're nowhere near able to fund the party. So, her whole premise, besides the fact, and I completely agree, I think it's the most egregious thing of all that they just didn't open the mail. But even if they had, we never could have funded the party on this model that she was proposing. We just couldn't have done it.
Yeah, and that from what I understand, that went all the way back to day one. Like they just never ever opened the mail. And I was also told that that one of the first things that Hoekstra did once he saw this is he asked them to put together a mailing list, and he personally signed these apology letters that went out to every single one of them, just apologizing for what had happened, and said, this isn't what the party's supposed to be about. We really apologize. Some of those ended up, sending new checks, but
yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, he sent that personal letter out to every one of them, and then with the ask again, if you're still willing to donate, here's the way and the process that you can go through it at this point in time, and we're beginning to get those checks back. So I think that was a huge move on Pete's part. To personally send those letters out, and the proof is in the pudding. Several of those are starting. Those same people are returning new checks now. So that was just the complete right thing for the chairman to do.
Yep. Heather Dow says, "I wish I didn't have to open my mail." Yeah, it's kind of an important thing when you're a state party. There might be other correspondence. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing here that maybe there's good reasons to see what comes in the mail for you. Mindy says Tim Ross is a rock star. Tyson says Tim Ross deserves a huge shout out for turning the budget committee through this. Yeah, buddy.
Well, thanks, guys. The check's in the mail, Tyson and
exposure. Mindy. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tim.
I just had the checks in the mail for Tyson and Mindy.
Yeah. Passion rock, everybody.
What I thought was the most disturbing thing or surprising thing, perhaps, of the whole thing was the allegation that or the suggestion that Trump was not he was planning on using the party of Illinois.
Yeah.
To run all their campaign expenses. Is that accurate? Is that true?
Yes. Yeah, we were specifically told in our meeting Tuesday night that had we not righted this ship, that we would have had no involvement in the campaign in Michigan at all. They were prepared and all set to run it all through the Illinois State Party. Yep. That's
incredible. And I think a testimony to how dangerous the situation was, how untenable it was. I mean, do all these Kristina Karamo people understand that this situation was so bad that the Trump campaign had to go to Illinois to find Republicans that know how to run campaigns? That's amazing.
Well, I mean, she was using our FEC account for DoorDash and all of our little stops at the gas station.
Yeah. Susan says Omarosa didn't open 30,000 pieces of mail while working for Trump, collected under her desk. Kind of similar. Yeah, another bad faith campaign there. Another comment someone had here. John on Facebook says, "Why are we paying her legal bill?" That's a good question. So, so this is confirmed, guys, that the party had $100,000 spent for Kristina Karamo's attorneys after she was removed from office? Because it seems to me that if it's shown that that was specifically payable for her legal defense, not her legal defense, but her legal defense in the case where she was sued in Grand Rapids, shouldn't she owe that money back to the party? Am I missing something here?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we get there. So there's a lot, Todd mentioned the consultants and others that we've brought in now to resolve all these issues. And a lot of the specifics we'll find out more after the November election. The company that's handling all these FEC filings and fixing everything, they work with the Trump campaign. They work with several of the state committees. And so they got a lot on their plate, obviously, right now leading up to the election. And they have notified the FEC, and the FEC has agreed to wait till after the campaign is over for president to allow them to make all the amended reports. And so, we'll know more as we go along, and particularly once they make those amendments. But there's a lot of, the kind of the nitty gritty that I guess still has to be discovered, and so. Yeah, I mean, will it lead to us filing suit to get money back? I would suspect more than likely. People have asked several times, is this going to lead to somebody going to jail? I mean, we don't know. All of those things are possibilities right now, but we got a lot to still unpack and uncover in all of this. But it will all come out for sure. So, but we're not going to know a lot of the details until after the November election. This stuff it's interesting. Those of us who play the game and who have been involved and been working hard, involved with her removal. This is all super interesting to us. But the most important thing right now is to get President Trump elected, and to get Mike Rogers elected, to flip the House in Lansing. And so, everybody's focused on that. But as soon as we meet those goals, then we'll go hard and heavy back at this, and we'll have a lot more specific answers at that point.
Well, let me pose this question to you then, because I understand that, but the other thing that is happening is that we have a state convention coming up, and the disruptors, by their nature, want to sabotage that event to whatever degree they can. And I'm going to go to Scott on this in a second, but there are even still opportunities for them to do damage if they can embarrass the party, if they can try to have some kind of bonkers ruling to overthrow Pete Hoekstra again. There is Ron Weiser running for Michigan regent. They might try to get involved in that. All kinds of crazy stuff can happen there. And again, these people don't care about getting Trump elected. They just want to cause as much chaos and damage as possible. So we have a convention coming up that if the party is not actively working on suppressing the disruptors, they might cause even more trouble. Like I remember in particular 2 years ago, the disruptions in the state convention in August 2022 did immense damage to Tudor Dixon's campaign. And they could do the same once again in Michigan with Trump too. So I don't know. Scott, what are your thoughts on this, by the way? Do you think the party is preparing for this?
You mean on a national level or on the state level?
At the state level.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the state party is really focused on November, and this is a delicate walk because they've got to, I think Trump is right and his team is right to try to go as Big Ten as possible, and we need the Karamo cultists to vote Republican, and we need and we need the independents to vote Republican. I mean, we need everybody. So we somehow have to not and I think hopefully with this story we're not turning people off and turning the Karamo faithfuls away from the Republican Party. I think that it's either Trump or Kamala. RFK is not really an option, really. Yeah. I mean, Trump or a communist, and but what I see on a national level is, and when I look at their narratives and the messages and everything that they're putting forward, they really are trying to siphon as much energy as possible away from Trump, and they're trying to do as much damage to him as they possibly can.
Yeah.
So, and I would also say that I'm very concerned about what these people might do either before or after the election. I'm very, very concerned.
Let me add a little bit about the August convention coming up here, Adam.
Sure.
You know, if we look back at the last state committee meeting, you know, the disruptors tried really hard when we were certifying, you know, delegates to the RNC convention, and then even the meeting after that when we were dealing with credential claims at the last state committee meeting. And I'm sure many of you have seen the videos of Studebaker. I appeal the decision of the chair. I appeal the decision of the chair. On and on ad nausea. You know, there was just a small faction. The majority of the state committee. Now I know the convention is convention delegates versus the state committee, but if you know, you look at the districts, you know, the majority of the districts now, the majority of the 13 districts are supporting the current administration, at least at the state committee level. And if that flows down to the precinct delegates who are elected as state committee or state convention delegates, I can't imagine that they're going to have a 2/3 majority to try to do anything like suspending the rules. And the other thing is, you know, we're ready parliamentarily. We're ready for challenges, right? And so, you know, if you look at like what they did on January 13, they just made up rules. They violated, you know, both the bylaws and Robert's rules over and over again. And the parliamentarian that they had, Ralph Rebant, did nothing, never expressed an opinion, you know, at all to challenge anything that was going on. That's not going to happen at the convention. So unless the disruptors and the KK crazies actually have 2/3 of the convention delegates, yeah, they might cause a lot of ruckus. We might be there all day trying to wade through the issues, but I can't see them having 2/3 majority of all of the convention delegates. And without that, they can't do anything other than disrupt, you know? So at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, they can make us look bad. The media can report on us and tell the state how messed up and how, all the infighting, but I just don't see them able to accomplish anything at the end of the day.
Yeah. By the way, I'll get to the chats in a minute, and I will at some point. We will have our discussion about the incident with Nathan Morris too, and the Give Send Go. I see those in the chat too. But Tim, to your point though, now here's why I see there being an issue here. This seems to me like it would be a very low interest state convention. There is no contest for Attorney General, no contest for Secretary of State, no contest for chair. The only things that are, and it's in Flint, which is a weird location. So I don't know how many people out there care all that much about who our nominee will be for the state or for the state Supreme Court. I have a preference, but enough of a preference to care enough to go to Flint, probably not. Same for the other university board races. I am going to be passionately helping out Tom McMillan for State Board of Education, but you know, that's pretty much it. That and the electors, which it's a ceremonial role. I mean, I'm sure some people will want to be the electors, but unless you personally are planning on being one, you probably don't care all that much who's the one who's going to do it. And I think the disruptors might see an opportunity there because any given county, they might have difficulty. It might be a scenario where just about everybody who asks to go to the state convention gets to go.
Yeah, and you might be right. And you know, I'm also a county chair, and in Ionia County, and we don't have, as of now, and we have, you know, the county conventions are this coming Thursday. Precinct delegates and others interested, you know, have until the 12th to notify county chairs if they want to go to be considered as a delegate to the state convention. And in Ionia County, we don't yet have a full slate. So you might be right about that. But I think too, you know,
some of those main disruptors didn't even become a precinct delegate.
That's true. Some of them are no longer precinct delegates.
Yeah.
Dan Bonamy, point in fact, you know, he loses a supervisor race and he loses a race as a precinct delegate. So it couldn't happen to a better guy. But so we did lose some of the disruptors that aren't precinct delegates any longer. So yeah, I suppose they could make things happen at our level in Ionia County here. You know, I'm trying to encourage the right people. I say right, you know, the right people to sign up to go as delegates to the convention. And so, for any other county chairs that are on the call, gosh, try to do the same thing between now and, the 12th at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock or whatever the deadline is. And let's try to get, some people that think logically to go instead of just disruptors.
Yep. Randy Guppy says the KK crazies in my county have all expressed interest in going to state convention because that's what their calling is, to destroy the party. Nick Prill says same in Kent County. Heather says I won my precinct delegate race. Congratulations, Heather. George Hiller says I'm not going. No point in dealing with my county crazies. I don't know where he's from, but that's the attitude we're afraid of. George, hate to say it.
St. Joe. He's from St. Joe.
Yeah, Louise says we'll have good people from Gladwin County, but we're not large in number. Melanie Greenfield says Dan Bottomley lost, but is still a huge influence in the first district. On Rumble, GGB Patriot says, I want to hear what the plan of the saboteurs is now to thwart and be aware. Sabotage over what? What influence, if any, do they have now? All right, let's talk about that then. The first thing they will try to do is overthrow the convention rules and make it disorderly. So that'll be the first thing. And again, now, Tim, you said 2/3. Is that what it would take to do what exactly?
So we already have rules for the convention that have been adopted, and so to change anything that's in the rules, all of to do that would take a 2/3 majority. Anything to change anything that's already been adopted, anything, particularly rules, we can't change bylaws, but any rules to do anything outside of Robert's rules, all of those would require a 2/3 majority to make those changes.
Yep. Dan Lawless says anything outside the agenda and rules presented will be the work of those trying to sabotage. Yep. They will try to amend the agenda. They will try to amend the rules. They will try to evict the chair. They will try to evict the chair as the convention chair and as the state party chair. They will attack Pete Hoekstra. No question about that.
And they tried to do that at the last state committee meeting. And, Pete doesn't like chairing meetings. That's not his thing, right? And so all along, he had been calling meetings to order and then turning the meeting over to the co-chair. And Melinda did a good job of, getting us through the agendas. And then at the last meeting, they challenged him on that. And so Pete, instead of pushing back, he just said, and I was up on the stage and we were talking about what to do according to the bylaws and Robert's rules. And he just said, and we were all saying to him, hey, you can call the meeting to order. And then the chair has every right to allow anyone who the chair wants to chair the meeting at any point in the meeting, and he just said, no, I'm going to do it. It's going to quiet these guys down and we can move on to the agenda. So they're going to try things, but I'll bet you, me and Dan Lawless, we'll probably be sitting side by side or awful close to each other as we have in several meetings, and helping wade through all of this stuff to make it orderly in the end.
Yeah,
I think Tyson had a really good comment a few minutes ago in the chat, and he said, "I can assure you, we'll be prepared. We have a team dedicated to the convention. This will be a monumental convention for MIGOP and momentum going forward." I would expect the state party, on the executive level, being prepared for this in the same way that the RNC was prepared for the national convention.
Yeah, and I think this might be unusual, but I would expect the Trump campaign to intervene. I would expect Trump to endorse in all of those races, by the way, so that there is no room for dissension other than to be seen as opposing the Trump agenda.
Hey, Tim, you're on the credentialing committee, right?
I am. Yep.
Do you foresee any problems with any of these districts and credential problems?
Well, at this point, we've only received the list of credentials, not even the list of credentials, but the numbers allocated to every county. And that's the only thing that we've reviewed so far. I can tell you we only had a handful of credential issues going into the March district caucuses that we had. So I don't, and some of those challenges were more process related as to, should this person or that person, be credentialed. It was more the process that they went through at different counties. And and a couple of situations, that you're all aware of, like Hillsdale and Kalamazoo, as to, who is the rightful party. So we had to look at those issues in the past. I don't really foresee anything other than those types of issues. We'll know more, obviously, after Thursday, after we have county conventions and delegates are elected. We'll know, if there are challenges that arise out of the counties, if there are competing slates, perhaps that both claim to have been, successfully elected, we'll deal with those things. But I don't suspect it will be anything more than, it was in March.
Yeah.
Now, do you know, are they just going to have one ballot for everybody to fill out?
At the county or at the?
No, at the state convention.
I believe so. That's how it's usually done.
Okay.
There shouldn't be any need for any runoffs. To my knowledge, there's no more than, I think, 3 candidates running for 2 seats in some cases.
Right.
Anyway, I want to read this chat real quick. Melanie says it's ego for the KK people. The leaders of the first district want to be seen in charge. They want to count the votes. Oh yeah, that's an obsession of theirs for sure. Sharon says on Facebook, this is getting tiresome, but common sense, intelligent delegates need to go. Sending good candidates for Supreme Court to the general election ballot is imperative. Yeah, absolutely. I think that the challenge is going to be convincing some precinct delegates to go to state convention just to stop the disruptors from trying to make us seen. Mark says, in my humble opinion, this convention is still important as every convention because the party is sending candidates to the state Supreme Court and the Michigan School Board and other university boards, which are important too. Yeah, and maybe it seemed like I was being dismissive of those seats. I really didn't mean to be. It's just that compared to these other races, it's not the thing that tends to get people to be passionate about coming to the state convention. Like I have a preference between Mark Boonstra and Andrew Fink for state Supreme Court. But how many people with a preference are going to say that's going to make me want to go to Flint, especially if you're from, the western part of the state or something,
Well,
so
look at our primary election that we just went through here in Ionia County, and it's a similar situation. On the primary ballot, unless there was a hotly contested local race, there wasn't much going on, and we had in a lot of townships here less than 20% turnout. And so I think that gets to your point, Adam, that it's not a sexy, the primary wasn't a sexy primary. There wasn't nothing. Now, we did have one township in Ionia County that had a hotly contested township board race, and they had over 52% turnout, So, I mean, I think that speaks exactly to what you're saying, Adam, is that, if there's something sexy about the election, people turn out. If there's not, then they don't. Even though, those of us who typically go to these things are a little bit more political junkie than the average voter, still, if there's not an exciting reason for us to go, then a lot of people, decide not to, just like the one comment that was made.
Yeah. Okay. Louise on YouTube asks, how can I prepare my delegates, many of whom are new, what to expect at the convention? And I guess we should talk about that then. County and state. I think the first thing to talk to them about is that there exists a group called disruptors whose one and only mission is to be disruptive and to damage the party and to stop Donald Trump from winning the election. Because they will use disruptive tactics. And they need to know that these are the enemies to be voting against all the time because they are trained in Marxist tactics, which start with positioning your people peppered around the room and using procedural motions and appealing the ruling of the chair and all these other things to create the illusion of that they're the ones righting the wrongs of the establishment and yada, yada, yada. So I would methodically call through all of the precinct delegates in your county and say, we have a convention coming up. It's to elect delegates to a state convention, which is, to elect for a few important races like university boards, presidential electors, but in general, a pretty dull thing. Our concern is that there are people that want to be disruptive in every way possible. And I would just start laying it out for them. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on this? What do you think you might talk to delegates about?
I think that's a good idea. On one of the couple of the signal groups that I'm on, some people have suggested that a briefing from the budget committee should be on the agenda of the state convention, and that it should be before any of these elections, And I mean, I would be willing to do that. I don't know for sure that it's the best idea, but the rationale was to get right to what you're talking about. Lay it out there for some of these new delegates so they can see, what's been going on, what we've been dealing with, where we're at now, how we've corrected things, what we had to deal with, what are the issues, the financial issues that we had to go through, and so that they understand that it's not just this group of disruptors who, as you say, are going to try to make themselves out to be the heroes in all of this, and that they're the ones that were, wronged. But to lay it out before they have an opportunity to do too much disrupting, and before we get to the votes. So I don't know if that's the best idea or not, but I think certainly, and my plan is also to call all of the precinct delegates in the next couple of days who have been elected, and encourage them to come to the county convention and to go to Flint. It's for us, at least, it's close enough that you could drive over in the morning and drive back afterwards, so you don't have to stay the night. But I think that's a good point. If we can educate our precinct delegates so that those who go to state convention, or those who are maybe even thinking about it, could be encouraged to go, recognizing that, there's not super exciting races, although they're critically important races. They're not super exciting for a lot of people, but if they go in knowing that there's not likely, but there will be these disruptions, there will be people trying to get a hold of the agenda, trying to force their agenda on our agenda, then they can be prepared going in, because these people, you can't tell these disruptors, you can't tell them anything. You can't convince them of anything. You can't talk logically to them, because they'll have some stupid excuse or some.
Well, they're duly elected. They're duly elected. They're duly elected, Jim.
They're duly elected. That's right. But you can't argue logic with them, because they just throw something else in there that they think makes more sense than logic. And so if they're out there, we're all Christians on this call, but we would never be throwing scripture out and saying that we are God ordained and all of these sorts of things, to try to convince people that our position is right, in a political party. And they'll try those things too. And they have all along. Kristina is the anointed one. Those of us who ousted her are the spawn of Satan, and we're all going to burn in hell. We've heard all of those things, and they will keep doing that to try to convince people who don't know better that they're on some holy war here, and that they're out to avenge all of the wrongs that have been done to them. And so we just need to educate people going into the convention. Don't have a lot of time. It's the 20. It's only a couple of weeks away before the state convention. So, but I think that's right. We need to let people know what's going on.
Yeah,
I think Tim, to your point, in terms of talking about what you've presented here and what Todd wrote on that chat, I think that there's a real benefit in doing that, in that it builds up Hoekstra and the current leadership of the state party. I think what they did with the Comerica, you didn't really write about that, Todd, but they inherited a debt of over 300,000. About 300,000 in the.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Scott, but there's some feedback going on. I think maybe it's coming through on Tim's computer when you're talking. I don't know what's doing it, but something's happening.
Let me go.
All right.
I'll mute myself.
All right. Yeah, that's better.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yep. So that they inherited about, and they lied. They just outright lied about the debt that they inherited, and that they were saddled with debt from the beginning. And I think that it needs to be shown that no, that's not actually what happened. They had about a little over 300,000 in debt. They had about $300,000 cash in the bank, so they were pretty close to neutral. They blew the cash, and then they built up that line of credit up to over $500,000, and then they just stopped making payments on it. And more than that, they had Dan Hartman sue Comerica, claiming that they shouldn't have to pay it. It's just ridiculous. And one of the first things that Hoekstra did when he took office is he canceled that. He ended that lawsuit, and then he had to pay $50,000 in back fees, late payments, and late penalties in order to bring the loan current. And now he's making principal and interest payments, which was never done before. They only paid interest payments when they were making payments. And I think that really underscores the difference in honor, and honesty and ethics between the Karamo administration and the Hoekstra administration. What is running the party right now is Republican leadership. I think that this is something that Republicans should be able to, all Republicans, even those who have been really deceived by Karamo and her lieutenants. I think that they should be able to see, okay, yeah, this is good. Where these are good steps that have been taken. They've raised more than 10x what Karamo ever raised. These are good steps. This is the party that we want to be a part of. And I think that really should be emphasized.
Yeah. I think it's going to take a lot of one-to-one conversations. Here, let me read some chats real quick. So you have more of these come in. Sharon says it's the 4-year term of the Supreme Court. That should be the focus. Here's what I would say. I think that's an important race, but I would tell people the most important thing for me is a fair election. I just don't want, chaos at the county convention that makes people feel like they were disenfranchised. I think we should talking to people about having an orderly convention, about respecting people's time, and let people decide for themselves who they think is the better choice for the state Supreme Court. I'm sure the state delegates will be hearing from all those candidates. Dan Lawless says, educate them that any changes brought forward to rules and agendas should be opposed. Absolutely. Although I have heard there's some crazy stuff going on behind the scenes with the convention regarding some nominations for the university boards, but let's leave that alone for now and just talk about the county conventions for this week. Let's see. Tyson says the biggest mistake the first-time delegates make is failing to notify their county chair of their intent to go to state convention. Yeah, if I was a county chair, I'd be proactively talking to all the precinct delegates and asking them directly, even if you've already sent them emails and phone calls and stuff. Mark says I was elected by 1 vote. Lol. Congratulations, Mark. On Rumble, Jujubee Patriot says I was the final winner in a contested race and unofficial results, but received a call from the elections office today that a tiebreaker will be happening at 9 a.m. Any advice? Go there. The elections department seems to have determined that there is a tie, and they break the tie by flipping a coin. So you just never know what's going to happen there, unfortunately. Jason says the path to Trump to be victorious in Michigan is with Hoekstra. Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing I would make the point of, is that everything they're going to do is going to damage Trump. Every last piece of it. Randy says my wife beat me again in the precinct delegate race. Bummer, man. Oh, by the way, Scott, how'd your race go? Someone in the chat was asking, did you get the nomination for county commission?
Yeah, I did. So this is going to be my first state convention, Lord willing, as a delegate. So I'm excited about that.
Cool. Paula says we don't even know all the delegates who were elected yet. We had many write-ins that won't be released until 7 days after the election. Yeah, that's true too. We'll talk to them as well. Those are probably most likely Karamo recruits, by the way, too, folks. But I've talked to them anyway. Did you really? Because I think a lot of them support Trump. I would lay it all out and show them Scott's research. This has been a campaign from day one to destroy the party and stop Trump from winning. And the folks in the low levels, it's become an emotional cause for them. It's not them, but people at the top are clearly been involved from the get-go. And then it's to create chaos. Nancy J on YouTube says, so Kristina wanted Sabrina Pritchett to be her treasurer. Sabrina dodged the bullet. Oh, well, whatever. I'm sure I missed some of these things. Jay says, squeak by and 12 votes. Congratulations, Jay. Let's see what else. Curtis Saber, 2004, says an article came out recently that the DeVos dynasty and many of her billionaire donor friends resumed donations to the MIGOP under Hoekstra. Sounds like the Republican leadership is bought and paid for. Is that how donations work?
Let me comment on that just briefly.
Yeah.
We did get several donations from several DeVos family members. but not a single string attached to them. They were donations that were made to the party, sure. And that gets back to my point that even with those donations, when I was commenting earlier about the $15,000 and the grassroots, and when I commented that we've had several people maxing out on their donations, even with all of those donations, we're not close to funding a single campaign with those donations. You know, the money that's coming in from the HRCC, from the RNC, from the Trump campaign, that's the money that we're using to fund these campaigns. All the Trump signs that you're seeing popping up all around the state now, you know, we're paying for those. The Michigan Republican Party is paying for those, but it's with money that's coming in from the RNC and from the campaign. And so yeah, we have received donations from the DeVosses and others, not just the DeVosses, but all of those donors are coming back. But those donations, there's no strings attached, and they don't make a difference in the campaign. So it's the money that's coming in from the RNC and the Trump campaign that's you know, impacting what's going on with the Trump campaign in Michigan. It's the money that's coming from the HRCC, and you know, there's all these other groups that are supporting candidates that are coming into the Michigan Republican Party to influence these elections, to work on these elections. That's what's making a difference. So even though that money's coming in, it's not impacting, you know, how we do things at the Michigan Republican Party.
Yeah. Curtis Saber 2004 continues. I don't want an MIGOP that's owned by billionaires that is in cahoots with the World Economic Forum. Well, wait a minute. First off, what does the World Economic Forum have anything to do with this? It's just something to just throw in there. But more importantly, hey, wasn't Betsy DeVos Trump's education secretary?
Yeah.
I mean, do you want the party to be broke? Do you want Trump to lose, Curtis? Because that's what happens when you say, I don't want money. I don't want the family that Trump appointed Betsy DeVos to serve in his cabinet, who did amazing things to go after the teachers' unions for education choice. You know, seems like kind of a big thing.
And that's what I heard. You know, Kristina Karamo herself was going around for 11 months, well, 13, including the 2 where she was illegitimate. But you know, she was going around all over the state saying, saying exactly that. We don't need money to run a campaign. We just need people. and the result of that is Trump saying, okay, we won't run our money through the state party. Then we'll run it through Illinois. And that would have been, as I understand, that pass-through money would have been what, like 6 to 10 million. Is that accurate?
It's probably going to be close to 10 million by the time we're done. We've gotten close to 2 million already through the RNC and the campaign. And so, yeah, we're looking at in one of our upcoming budget committee meetings in the near future, amending our budget, because we had adopted like a $3.3 million budget. And, we're going to be 3 times that probably, by the time the campaign is over. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of money that's coming through the state. And it's hiring a lot of people, hiring a lot of local people, because we have several local people working for the campaign, at the management level, that are reaching out to county chairs, reaching out to others as they have, the need to bring others on. And we're bringing a lot of local grassroots people into the campaign. And had that all happen through Illinois, we'd probably have a bunch of Illinois people working here for the campaign.
Yeah. Jeff Fuss says, money is not the root of all evil. Yeah, money is also the fruits of your labor. Louise on YouTube.
You know what that Bible verse says? It says the love of money is the root of all evil, not money.
Yeah.
So, right. Yeah.
Louise says Betsy did great and she was vilified by the left. Curtis on YouTube on Rumble says, I just don't want strings attached. Strings aren't attached to donations. You can't do that. There's no legal means to attach strings to a donation. So I guess we're all in agreement here.
So proof of that is, that money that we got last year from the NRCC that Kristina spent on paying back Jim Kopis and probably paying her own salary. That money was hoped to be spent for congressional campaigns, but can't legally attach any strings to it. So she spent it on whatever she wanted to. And, had she not been removed, we never would have gotten another dime from the NRCC. And so these candidates that are running for Congress, would have been on their own in a lot of ways. But now to Scott's point, now we have a state party that is recognized across the country. They know that the leadership is good. My goodness, Chairman Hoekstra made the motion to approve the party platform at the national convention. I can guarantee that Kristina Karamo would not have been asked to do that. So that just speaks volumes to where we're at now compared to where we were, January 1.
Right. I had a little something to do with the Arizona delegation, speaking of the national convention, being tucked into a closet in the back on the floor, and there was one other closet that wasn't used, and I'm sure that was there. That's where the Michigan delegation would have been had Karamo been had the microphone.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think just to kind of wrap up the topic here, we have the conventions coming up this Thursday. So maybe a lot of you watching have thought, yeah, I'm not going to bother with the state convention. But there is a real concern that they could cause chaos at this convention. So for no other reason than to support Trump and to support the ticket and support, therefore, a civilized process, that we need patriots who are stepping up to go to the Flint convention for that reason, if nothing else. Hey, there's a question for you, Scott. Melanie Greenfield wants to know, can you comment on the Michigan people at the RNC convention under Arizona delegate? I don't know what that means exactly, but I don't know what she's asking. Maybe Scott, you can decide for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I could say that the if she's saying, just to give a little bit more explanation to that, maybe. So
she's probably talking about, there's rumors that Dan Bonamy and maybe one or two other people were there and were getting guest passes from the Arizona delegation.
Yeah, I do actually believe that that's true. But I also think that it's something of a nothing burger. I did talk to somebody who saw Dan Bonamy at an entrance gate, so I know he was there, and I do know that unless it is possible that some guest passes were taken from the Michigan check-in booth in the morning at the hotel. It is possible that he got those passes that way. It is also possible that he got some from the Arizona delegation. I do know that they did have some extra guest passes in Arizona because they were trying to sell their guest passes for $5,000 a piece to try to raise money, and they didn't sell very many of them. But the reality is that the guest passes on the final day were really, it didn't really matter because all the guests, we all had to kind of sit up in the nosebleeds. They were pretty strict because it was such a full house that the guests weren't really able to go down to the floor anyways on the last day. So it wasn't really that big of an issue. I do know that Dan Bonamy, I think that Dan Bonamy said something on Telegram or something that's how he was getting his passes. So that's why that all came up, that he was getting them from Arizona.
Joe Ellen asks, has anyone seen Mike Labadie lately? I don't know.
He's very much involved, I am certain, he's writing a lot on Unshackle the Mitten. I mean, the same stuff that we broke down at him a few weeks ago, there's been a lot more of that type of writing that I've seen on Unshackle. He's also very much involved in the moveitchristian.com, which I don't think is getting very much traction at all. But it's kind of another propaganda site trying to recruit Christians in particular to join, the Michigan, their whole network. So
yeah, for those who haven't seen that video, it's on Scott McMahon's channel, which is on, I think, all the big ones, YouTube and X and all that. BiggerTruth.substack.com has links, and I was on his show a few weeks ago. We were talking about Mike Labadie and his over-hyphenated rhetoric on Telegram and elsewhere. So there's that. On Rumble, Sailor Sam asks, in the panel's opinion, is it a good idea for a newly elected precinct delegate to attend the upcoming convention? I would say yes. I see Tim and Scott nodding. Yeah, every convention is a learning experience for folks, and if you can go there and speak out when the disruptors are starting to disrupt and say, excuse me, this should be nothing complicated here. All we need to do is have an orderly election of delegates to a state convention. What's the difficulty here? Because they're doing all kinds of banana stuff at the county conventions too. Mark my words.
My first one was 2 years ago when they were booing Ron Weiser, and I'm like, what the hell did I get myself into?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the Macomb County people were fighting. It was a show.
Yep. Mark says, I've never been to Flint for a Republican convention. I've never heard of one being there. But the problem, and this was a comment earlier, is that Kristina dropped the ball on even getting that event booked. And so they kind of had to scramble because there was no other. Almost always they're either in Grand Rapids, Lansing, or Detroit. And yeah, so it's been different this time. Jay Mashad says, all precinct delegates have equal rights at the county convention. That is true. Yeah, bring your own water to the state convention. That's for sure. Bring a book too, guys. They are boring and they are time consuming, especially if the disruptors are consuming even more time. All right. This has now been a comment on Rumble as well. So I will bring this up about Nathan Morris in Canton. Received an email from the MIGOP about that. Yeah. For those who don't know, Nathan Morris was a local party activist in, I think, Canton. And he was the victim of just a senseless murder just yesterday, I believe it was. So if you haven't seen this already, let me put up on the screen where you can support his family. It's at gives. Oh, you know, I should let me do this so that the address bar shows up. But it's givesendgo.com is where you go to find the link, and then hold on, let me pull it up here. And then it's givesendgo/remember Nathan Morse, and that's with capital R, capital N, capital M. I'm not sure if that address is case sensitive, but there you go. There is the photo of Nathan and his wife and his kids. And I don't know exactly what happened, but basically, as I understand it, basically just a completely senseless murder. So there you go. There's where you can go to support Nathan's family right there. Anyway,
something happened actually just a few minutes ago, Adam, when you're in your little discussion there with Curtis, that I thought was actually encouraging, and it really shows the power of information. You know, that he's, you know, you guys were able to come to an agreement on just based on, you know, informing, okay, you know, there were these strings attached, that the money, you know, the large donations, they're still not that large, and they're nowhere near enough to fund the party. And, you know, just that information is so important. And what we had before was no information. You know, they had such complete control over the information flow, and they had no information to begin with, because, you know, the whole Karamo team was so completely uninformed about what it means to run a state party. So, you know, I think that what we have now is a party that is informing its people, and I think you've had a lot more time to inform people, and, you know, there's just I'm really encouraged about what is happening in Michigan, especially when I look at other states. So I think we're better off here than in any other state, hands down.
I think it's absolutely critical that people pick up the phone and start talking to delegates and warn them, because the tactics that they use are textbook Marxism and crowd manipulation. And the only way to prepare them for it is to let them know what they will be doing and what their motivation is. And, you know, just keep it simple, to the point. This is disruptive. The purpose of it, at the end of the day, all this accomplishes is damaging the Trump team. Real quick, Kristen says Nathan ran for school board last cycle, part of our Wayne County crew. Yeah, it's very sad. Terrible tragedy. Patty also said you can contact her directly if you want to give money without the website getting a cut. Although, to be fair, Give, Send, Go has supported campaigns that the other one, GoFundMe, wouldn't. So I hope Give, Send, Go is able to keep their business model going as well. On a lighter note, guys, just to break the awkwardness of this sad topic, I'll show you something funny, because I made a thumbnail for tonight's stream, and it's funny as an experience with using AI. So I'll show you what happened. I went to use AI to generate a thumbnail, so I put in a prompt into Midjourney, and it said, "Give me a caricature of Kristina Karamo." Figuring, you know, the AI can Google just the same as I can, so it'll look up pictures of Kristina Karamo, and it comes back, and this is the selection of 4 images it gives me to choose from for an image of Kristina Karamo, which didn't do very well. So the next thing I did was I said I actually gave it a photo to look at and to see if that would help. So I gave Midjourney this photo and said, make a caricature of this image of Kristina Karamo to see how that would go. And well, it didn't go very well, guys. This is what I ended up with. This is what Midjourney gave me. This was Midjourney's doing. Okay, this is what Midjourney came up with based on that image. Now I have to say, I do see certain vague similarities of what the artificial intelligence has done here, but very strange. At no point, and none of these 4 have they rendered a female, let alone a black female. I think 2 of them look like they're transgender, and the other 2 are just very strange-looking men, I guess, with some features in common. Strangely enough, so that was what the AI clearly has difficulty with race and sex. So I tried once more, and I said, I gave him that same picture once again and said, give me a caricature of this person as a black female. And it came up with these, which are black females, although none of them look anything like Kristina Karamo at all. So that was unfortunately where my experiment with AI had to come to an end. So unfortunately, AI is sometimes good for generating thumbnails, but didn't work out so well for me this time. So
I guess AI is not the answer to everything yet, huh?
Not yet. It's getting better, although still has issues. Yeah, James says the lower left one look like Oprah. Yep. Curtis Saber, 2004 says, Scott, do you have an issue with Christian precinct delegates? I don't know why he would ask that question, but if you want to answer that question, Scott.
Well, since I'm a Christian precinct delegate, no, I don't think I do.
Yeah,
I do have a huge issue with people who profess to be Christians and use the Bible as a weapon to incite hatred. And I have another really huge issue with people who are trying to convince Christians that there's something more important than the gospel that churches should be preaching, and that is politics. I don't think that that's true. I think that that's completely in opposition to biblical teaching. So I do not agree with Christian nationalism, and that could be a longer conversation. I'd be happy to have that conversation with you offline too. If you contact me on X.
There you go. And Christian really seems to concur as well. A couple other things real quick. It's getting late, guys. We've been on for an hour. I did want to mention some late candidate surveys did come in at the last minute, and or maybe it was my fault that they got lost in the mail or something. But Lisa Trombley, who won her race in Traverse City, did post a response to the candidate survey, as did incumbents Jerry Nayer and Ann Bolin. Those are now at rescuemichigan.com if you're curious, although the primary is over. We did if you haven't seen it, last Wednesday we did a primary results stream. So there you go. I guess we will find out later this week how the write-ins. There were some write-in campaigns for precinct delegate and for other things. We may talk about those later. But yeah, for right now, folks, I mean, basically this convention is the last thing before the all-out sprint till the November election. So let's hope that they send decent people, decent patriots to the state convention. And by the way, folks, precinct delegates automatically have a preference in getting to go to the state convention. But if you don't have a full slate of precinct delegates that want to go to the state convention, and some places might not, then non-precinct delegates can take those spots. So there is still potential. If you are not a precinct delegate, you didn't make it, you could still express interest to your county GOP that you'd still like to go to the state convention if there's a seat available. And there might be. So yeah, there is that. All right, guys, I think we're probably about to call it a stream. Is there anything you guys have coming up? Any events, anything you want to plug? Feel free to plug away.
No, it's actually the primaries are over. I'm going to be heading to I'm going to be heading to Monroe to work with Holly Vlade, Matt Petrie, and that their county party there in their northern half. We got some tight races coming up. They've been doing a great job in Monroe, so it's going to be a pleasure to go over there and work with those guys.
Yep. We want Jamie Thompson to win. We're going to be doing everything we can in Washtenaw County for Dale Benicki as well. That's a winnable state house seat. That's in Wayne, Monroe, and Washtenaw counties, and even a bit of one away. So
yes,
that one is critical. Scott, what you got?
Quite a bit. I just, next stories. I'm only there's my next story, so I've got a few that I'm working on, especially including one on Christian nationalism and what the whole Flint Network is doing as far as recruiting pastors all over the country for what I believe is nefarious purposes.
Yep. On chat, Paula says candidate forum Tuesday 7 p.m. at Joy Manor in Westland. So there you go. If you're in Southeast Michigan, get to that. Paula, let us know in the chat what the candidates are. They're going to be there. Kristen also says pray for / over the convention. Josh Powell, House 25. There you go. Margaret says Kristina Karamo is a godly person, so her minions say, and she's unable to explain where the $130,000 went. Yeah, they wear their faith on their sleeve, and then yet they are also caught constantly lying and cheating and stealing. It's amazing. Todd, did you have any events you want to? Oh, I just went to you. Tim, did you have anything else?
No. I'm just working here in Ionia County to get more grassroots, smart thinking precinct delegates signed up, and to go to convention. And we're Todd and I, along with the rest of the budget committee, we're going to be working hard to keep getting to the bottom of all these issues. There's more out there to be found yet, and we're going to be working with the party administration. I think the good news, as Scott mentioned earlier, is that we have good party leadership now. The administration has the right people running the ship, and we're well respected again nationally, and that's where we need to be. And we're all going to be working hard. Anybody that's not a Trump 47 hasn't signed up for the Trump 47 training, I would encourage you to do that. Get a hold of your county or district chairs. They can set you up with a Trump team. That's critically important to helping Trump win the state. So if you haven't signed up for Trump Force 47, do that right away.
Awesome. Paula says all the candidates that we will be voting on a state convention will be at this candidate forum. So once again, that is this Tuesday, 7 p.m. at Joy Manor in Westland. Patty reminds me that's not just Dale Benicki and Jamie Thompson, but also Riley Linting, who is the nominee in the eminently winnable seat currently held by nutcase Jamie Churches, Jim DeSanta, who is an incumbent but still in a race that needs to be fought for, and Adam Stathakis, I don't know who that is, but I'm sure it's a winnable seat because Patty says so, in the Wayne 6th congressional district. Eugene Dixon says Kristina Karamo has been gone for almost 9 months. What are you doing in November? Or are you setting the stage to continue the blame game when you fail in November? Well, Eugene, first off, I'm not on the ballot this November. Trump is. I think we're warning people that an orderly state convention will be good for the Trump team, and the whole ticket is a noble pursuit, for one thing. We are also involved, by the way, in sending some of the best candidates to run a ticket in the state house seats, which we talked about on the stream earlier this week. So I've been doing things, Eugene. I don't know what you've been doing, but I think you say when we fail in November, I'm hoping Trump will win. I think we want to build the momentum for a unified party to win for all the Republicans on the ticket. Louise says there's a lot of background noise. Sorry, Louise. I think that's coming from Tim, but it doesn't matter. This stream's about to come to an end. Kirsten Lee says, join us for a fundraiser with a private showing of Reagan and panel discussion at Canton Imagine on Saturday, August 31st, 7 p.m. And there's the link there. Well, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but you can see it on the screen. And of course, you can always pause the video later to get that link. So there's an event for Josh Powell as well. Heather says, I'm going to a Trump Force training on Tuesday. Yep, there's a lot of those going on too. So talk to your local GOP about that. And that will do it for us for tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in. As always, thanks for all you for liberty. Hopefully having a great county convention this Thursday and a great state convention the following weekend. Well, the weekend after that, the 24th. So, all right, guys, that will do it for us. Until next time, thank you to my panel for joining us. Thank you to everyone in the comments. And until next time, peace.
Take care, everybody.